Good evening, everyone. I welcome all of you on behalf of NSC SBH. I'm the coordinator, Dr. Sukanya Mitra, and it is really nice to see so many of you joining, and I hope more and more people will join as the event progresses. So today's event is titled Studying Danish Culture in the Indian Context, and we are going to listen to two talks, one on the Danish settlement of Tranquebar and the other on the Danish settlement of Serampore. And why we decided to hold this event is, of course, to celebrate World Heritage Day, which has just passed by last week on 18th April, as all of you know. But there were several other events lined up on that day. So we thought it is best that we hold our particular event on some other date, and so that more and more participants can join. And the reason we chose this particular topic is because unlike the other European settlements in India, such as those of the Portuguese, the British, or the French, the Danes are comparatively less discussed, and maybe because they were not so, politically powerful compared to the others. And but they did, for the short period that they were in India, they did leave a lasting imprint. So we will have the opportunity today, I hope, to have a discussion about the shared elements of the Danish settlements in India, and we will see what comes out of this discussion. So see and hear, rather, what comes out of this discussion. So we have two very young, promising architects with us today. The first person who is going to deliver a talk is Akshaya J. She holds a master's degree from SEPT University. She's a Master of Interior Architecture and Design, where she specialized in history theory and criticism. She is a practicing architect and runs the Akshaya Jayakumar Design Studio in Chennai. And she has also studied ceramics. Today, she will speak on the Danish settlement of Tranquebar. Shrestha is our second speaker today. She has also done her master's from SEPT University in conservation. And she has worked on several prestigious projects both as urban planner and as an architect. She is also the recipient of several prestigious awards, and she will speak on the Danish settlement at Serampore in West Bengal. So without much further ado, I would like to ask Akshaya to begin her presentation.
Are you able to view my screen? Yeah, so I'll be presenting my master's thesis work, a portion of it where I'm covering about the syncretic qualities in the built form of Tranquebar. So we'll look at the historical background and how the evolution of the settlement pattern and how as a result of the socio-cultural encounters, and see how try and analyze the syncretic factors in the built form at a settlement level, building level, and elements level. So Tranquebar is situated 300 kilometers south of Chennai, and being a coastal town, it has been a hub for trading ever since the Sangam period. And the earliest evidence dates back to the Masila Maninagar temple built in 1306. And as early as 1350s, we had Muslim traders settled down here, and they constructed the old mosque, which is still in function and in very good condition today. And later, due to the proximity of the neighboring Portuguese colony Nagapattinam, they built the Roman Catholic Church in late 1500s. So it is during 1620s that the Danes arrived here. They signed a treaty with the ruling Tanjore king at that time to establish a colony here, and they built the Dansborg fort in Tranquebar, which is the largest fort that they built outside of Denmark, anywhere else. So, and throughout their period, their trade has been fluctuating, and uh, during that period they also did a lot of other activities to engage the locals, and they brought the Protestant missionaries and built the first ever Protestant church in India at Tranquebar. And they also introduced the first ever printing press in Tranquebar. And it is during the golden period, that is 1770s to 1805, that they were very prosperous. They were doing good in their trade, and it is also the same time when the town gained its neoclassical character. So eventually, by 1845, they sold the town to British Raj, and who introduced the railway lines, post offices, sessions court, etc. And post independence, the town has been, even though it was listed as a heritage town by the state government, it was on a long virtual standstill until tsunami in 2004. Most of the buildings were abandoned, and during the tsunami restoration is when they started all the restoration activities and systems. So we can observe that throughout the historical background of Tranquebar, the Danes had a major significant role in the cross-cultural encounters. But even though they have had encounters with the Muslim traders and the Portuguese and British and everything. So to look at the socio-cultural impact, Tranquebar is highly driven by social stratification. So the important aspect in the town is that all the three religions, Hindu, Muslim, and Christians, they live peacefully, and it's very secular. They celebrate each other's festivals, and even practices are very similar uh, amongst them. It is also known as the education center as a result of the pietistic strategy that they introduced. Christian missionaries, they introduced a lot of schools here, and even today a lot from the neighboring villages, people come here just for their school. They travel long to come here. And in terms of occupation, fishing is the major occupation now. Although agriculture, trading, salt production they used to exist, and they have lost over a period of time due to water shortage and natural calamities, and the sea line also receding inside the town. A lot of streets have been vanished under the sea today. So in terms of political administration, even though we have a local government panchayat appointed here, it is majorly dominated by the community council, and they all coexist together, and all three religion people, they celebrate everything together. And like I mentioned, the chariot festival is very unique to the Hindu in the South India. So that is being practiced even by the Muslims and the Christians here. In terms of manners and customs, the tradition of drawing kolam is being practiced even across all religions within the town walls even today. When it comes to textile industry, the Protestant missionaries played a major role in abolishing the common phenomenon of nakedness. The missionaries brought by the Danes, and it's not just that. It was also more like an exchange process where apart from spices, cotton and indigo were also exported, and it created a revolution in Europe in terms of the Danish feather beds and the denim, and they introduced cotton in Denmark from Tranquebar. In terms of cuisine, rasam is a very staple diet in South India. It is an European influence because they did introduce tomatoes here, and it is South Indian version of soup. At the same time, it was very interesting to find that this particular dish called bisalmen is a traditional Danish dessert that is served in during Christmas, which is typically the arisi payasam in a traditional Tamil meal begins with this dish. And in terms of art form, we all know that the Devadasi temple dance, it was very, very much developed in Tranquebar, and encounters with these European colonies it led to this anti-nautch movement, and they abolished the system. And it developed to the formation of Bharatanatyam, which is being practiced today. And the town of dance, where the yearly Natyanjali festival happens, is very close to Tranquebar. In terms of language, it's very interesting to see that they used Portuguese as a common language between the Danes and the Tamil, and they taught Portuguese in the schools established by them. And if we look at the street names here, they have a common Tamil name, English name, and a Danish name. Even today, we can see that King Street, and the same name is written in Tamil as Raja Teru. In terms of crafts, the Danes during that period, I left out one point where the word for window, it's called jannal in Tamil, and it's called janela in Portuguese. So we can see that the encounters with them, there are a lot of influences in terms of all of these socio-cultural matters. In terms of craft, the Danes invited a lot of craftsmen from neighboring villages. The town right now has only the Goldsmith Street. The Blacksmith Street and other streets have been erased by the sea today. But we can still see, except for one family, nobody is practicing there right now. So a similar effort was taken post tsunami, where they established this Tranquebar Craft Resource Center, and also Intact's office was here. I think over a period of time, it was only right after tsunami, a lot of activities were happening in this town. But right now, there is no Intact office right now. The Craft Association is also not really functioning here. So in terms of built form, we can see that when before the Danes arrived, the town was majorly centered around the religious structures, and it was very organic. And after the Danes arrived, we can see that it has become more organized, but they did not affect the existing, community or anything. So the town has major arterial roads called the King Street and the Queen Street, and other streets also has this character where it reflects the socio-cultural social groups and religious groups, like Mosque Street and Perumal Kovil Street and stuff. So it is very evident that social stratification and religion decided the organizational pattern of the settlement. There are Tamil Muslims, Tamil Hindus, and European colonial buildings within the town wall. This study considers only the buildings inside the town walls. We don't have any native Christian residences here because the Danes brought the Christianity here. So these are the three typologies of buildings that we'll be looking at today. So this is the character of a typical Tamil street, and this is the neoclassical part of the town. So before moving on to the main case studies, we can look at since Protestant Christianity was started here, we can see how it is in the two religious buildings, one that was built for the Danes themselves and other for the Christian converts to engage with the locals. So the Zion Church was built for the Danes purpose. It's a simple prayer hall. We can see that the adaptation of a kalasam that's there in a traditional Tamil temple, and a lot of these intricate embellishments similar to Tamil buildings, and with a combination of European pinnacles on the parapets, and the windows have a typical European windows, but adapted for local climate by introducing louvers in them. Whereas when we look at the church built for the local community, we can see that it is predominantly European, and they took advantage of the crucifix form in order to accommodate to the social stratification. So each zone was for like a different social group. So irrespective of the kind of cross-cultural encounter, we can see that it has a combination of European and Tamil features in the architecture. So the factors, when we moving on to the building level, the factors influencing the architecture of Tranquebar are geography, climate, and local materials. A traditional, typical Tamil dwelling is a courtyard house where the number of courtyards, the scale of the building, and the intricacy in the details reflects the social status of the family. The spatial planning is zoned according to the privacy needs, and the doors are placed axially, following local symmetry with simple built-in furniture. So the first case study is a Tamil Hindu dwelling. It's a medium-sized house, a single courtyard residence. We can see that the house uses a lot of natural materials. The columns are made of locally available Palmyra trees, and it does not have a talavaram, which is the space between the road and the veranda thinai. And it's a very modest, axially aligned house with a little bit of where the usage of the European cornices and the iron hinges and stuff, they are all European influences inside. But when the main symbolic thing throughout the town is that the main door consists of the symbolic elements that describe the religion of the household, and the carvings and everything are typical South Indian carvings that is very common to both the Tamil and Muslim. But when you look at the rear part of the door, you can see that the chamfered wall and the colonial hinges made of wrought iron, all that have are an effect of European influence. So the next case study is Muslim dwelling. It is a comparatively larger dwelling. Most of the Muslim houses in the town are larger comparative to the Hindu houses. This is a double courtyard house with a spacious talavaram separating the street and the thinai. And we can see that the windows are larger, the columns are bulkier, made of Burma teak, indicating that they were traders. The Muslims were traders here, and they also helped the Danes initially, because Danes used this place more like a trading post than to colonize and spread their ideologies. It was more used for trading. So we can see that they were prosperous traders, and the raised plinth, we can see only that the Muslim houses had a raised plinth, and we can see that exaggerated cornices in the interiors, and the intricate carvings and stuff compared to the Tamil modest Tamil house. They had arched arches above the windows and the doors and everything. But irrespective of it, it's again the main door that is reflecting the character of the house. So it indicates conveys the religion, and a very plain shutter, not too much of carving because of religious beliefs. And you can see compared to the Tamil house, this has much more with the arch and chamfered wall and butterfly joints and stuff. It has much more influence uh, of the Danes. So, to study the Danish buildings in Tranquebar, a similar during at that time the architecture that they practiced in Denmark was studied. An internet case study. So it is just to verify whether it is the same or how the influence has been. So they followed a neoclassical style, and they had two-storied living spaces, which we can see that only the neoclassical buildings here in Tranquebar are two-story. And most planning were symmetrical and colonnaded veranda projection in beginning. So the case study for the neoclassical building is one of the most prominent houses, neoclassical building in Tranquebar. It's called the governor's residence. It's right on the major arterial street called the King Street. It was initially, so the building has undergone several changes over the period of time. It was originally built by a certain Danish businessman that was sold to the governor of the Danish government here. And because of that, it has the name. Even today, it is called the governor's residence. Even though later, when it was sold to the British, you had several other uses. And the building was left abandoned, and only after tsunami they restored it in 2010, and it is now open for visiting. So as there have been many changes of ownership, but still the building retains its neoclassical character. It adapts to the local climate, and by having louvered windows and stuff. The spatial planning, though it's very similar to a Tamil house, having the garden at the back, private, semi-private, and public space from end to the street. And it is symmetrical and use local materials and all of that. And we can see that as we move inside the house, the beginning of the house, the windows, the doors have, the Tamil Visiri pattern. And as you move inside courtyard 1 and then towards the backyard, the doors and windows become more, European and colonial in terms. But again, you can find similar hinges. It's called the bouquet horn beslag in Danish. Similar to a goat horn. We can find this kind of hinges even in the Tamil residencies behind. So we can see that it is very similar throughout the three case studies. So in terms of, next we look at the elements level where we still, have the character of the local practices and usage of the walls and thing. A lot of European influences. It's a very mixture, but it's very hard to identify clearly unless you like really sit and observe what is there. So and these are the different types of hinges that we can see, and different kind of embellishments and how it has adapted to the local climate and all of that. So I will just quickly brush through. So these are in the when it comes to furniture, the Tamil houses did not have any furniture. They only had built-in furniture. We did not have the culture of sitting on the chair and using a desk and stuff. But we can see in the church, they have preserved all the types of chairs, all the furniture that were made here and exported to Denmark. And similar chair can be seen even on the case study that we see in this building. A similar chair can be seen being used. So that's about the elements level. So the concluding perspective is that the study revealed a lot of invisible stories that there has been a lot of cultural, socio-cultural exchange process, but the Danes tried to, they had a very significant role in the town's character, but they never tried to differentiate or employ an architect to create vibrant structures, unlike the British did, because we feel from the study it looks like their relationship here was more for trading and not to it was very prominent, and also partly because their trade was fluctuating. So Tranquebar is a place, is a town which has a lot of invisible stories, but still holds, strong character of the neoclassical history of it, and that's about it.
Thank you, Akshaya, for this presentation. We will take questions, but after both the presentations are over. So I now invite Shristina to deliver her talk, and then we'll have a discussion after she finishes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Shrestha, presenting on reviving Serampore, the Indo-Danish heritage. So my talk has been structured as follows. First, we will understand the river Hooghly, an introduction to Serampore, Danish in Serampore, and share element in built form, and reviving initiative in Serampore. So understanding the relation of Hooghly and its adjoining settlements is very significant here. River Hooghly always act as a lifeline to these settlements like Chinsura, Chandranagore, Barakpur, Serampore, Kolkata, as you can see in the map here, all these settlements were oriented towards the river as the primary interaction from ages. The principal attraction of Hooghly River to European was the trading opportunity that it offered, as Hooghly served as an excellent trading port due to its proximity to the Bay of Bengal. This is why at the close of 15th century, Portuguese first landed in the bank of Hooghly and began trade with Asia. And following its path, as Akshara has mentioned, in the golden period of trading from 1755 to 1845, almost for 90 years, Serampore was flourished as one of the European colony of Denmark. Talking about Serampore, Serampore is one of the historic townships formed primarily with a conglomeration of three independent villages, namely Shrevepore, Mohanpur and Gopinathpur in 1753 by former Zamindar Raja Manohar Chandra Roy, who named entire area as Srirampur. It is currently a municipality in Hooghly district, located approximately 25 kilometers north of Kolkata on the west bank of Hooghly River. It covers about 6 kilometers on the bank of Hooghly with a total area of 9.8 square kilometers. In 1755, son of Manohar, Raja Raj Chandra Roy sold about approximately 60 bighas of land, including two more villages, Anka and Berapur, to Danish Asiatic Company in lieu of Indian rupees 2,632, with the major initiative of French governor of Chandranagar. Thus, from 1755 to 1845, Serampore was named as Frederiksnagar, as the land of the Danish king. The name itself have tried to localize, adding Nagar to the name of with the name of Denmark king. While to Danish, the waterway was appreciated for its material and practical as business value. To most Bengalis, it possessed great religious value, as it was also considered as Badh Ganga, as the ways to Ganga. But together with this religious belief, some Bengalis also made fortune from these waterways. Predominantly, the traders, zamindars, have developed their economic status substantially with the trade relation with Danish, namely Goswami in the west side, Roy in the center, where the Danish administration core also lies, because Roy sold the land to Danish, and in the east side, the Dey families. These families were the elites in Serampore who added layer of upper class value and status to Serampore. Trade and industrial development brought a major shift from rural to urban culture in Serampore. This adaptation of new urban culture is developed due to this socio-political transformation, which has been prominently comprehended from the build form, lifestyle, and the belief system. Hence, it became interesting to understand the role of their sterile vernacular setting and the degree of transformation that occurred when the urban layer was juxtaposed with it. In 1779, Ole Bai proudly reported to the Danish government, "When I arrived, the place had no more than 3 to 4 brick building houses. Now almost every street is flaunting with both European as well as native handsome brick buildings and warehouse, among which I myself have erected a stately house and godam." Moreover, the evolution of Bari typology, the housing typology of Bengal, mostly in terms of articulation of ornamentation, scale, architectural elements like louver window, column, etc., and also in the plan form, can be evidenced through the different archival map. Here, a brief look at two dwelling, rural and urban form, confirms that a number of spatial function and orientation of urban typology have evolved from traditional house form of Bengals. Talking about the rural type, built in mud wall and thatch roof with bamboo and sal wood, post and beam, mostly all units of the traditional Bengal rural form consists of an enclosed room with few fenestrations, an arcade opening into a small open yards. Whereas built in more permanent building material like bone brick and salwood as expanding members. The urban form consists of multiple courtyard, as you can see here, followed by semi-open arcade in all the four sides and are mostly inward-oriented type. Over a period of time, traditional rural mud houses got evolved as more permanent structure as traditional urban type. The evolution can be seen here. And today, these physical remains of different Bari typology in Serampore have become principal site for the creation of local shared history for transnational communities. This transnational bond reinforced to understand historical, economic, and social link between India and Denmark. And this is the Danish government house, which is the great example of transformation. It was established in 1755, the center of the Danish administration, and it was used as a private residence of head of Serampore. Initially, the government house was a simple mud wattle construction with a thatch roof, consist of a hall, 4 large room, 2 small room, 2 veranda, and 1 godam. It has used like local architectural building. But when the major part of this building collapsed during a dinner party on 2nd December 1770, John Lennon began the construction of new brick-built government house consisting of a hall, 2 room, and a veranda. From here, the architecture intervention started in Serampore. The use of multicolor facade like ochre yellow as wall base, white capital, terracotta baluster as a native technology, and all wooden openings in green and dentile cornice band in white gives the attractive aesthetic facade. This building became the icon for most of the elite families, and they started building their house in a similar style, but in more vernacular, with more vernacular fusion. So Goswami Rajbari is one of the perfect example of sheer built heritage. It is the most elaborate Rajbari as a palatial building of Serampore, which shows great adaptation of local Danish as well as the British influence in this build form. The presence of Scoto motifs, decorative wall painted in the staircase, round compound arches, the Georgian fan windows design are the characteristic reflects the neoclassical style fused with the vernacular space. And other characteristic of this style includes varieties of column, Georgian Ionic columns, capital being extensive use in courtyards, semi-circular arches and louver windows, several metal railing design, and stained glass windows. The terracotta work like flooring tiles, motif mold, baluster has been used, which shows a native style or technology used in the European architecture. Similarly, sal wood has been used for the structure member, which is very common in India. In some part, iron as the replacement of wooden structure beam can also be observed. The 14 Corinthian 10-meter height column forming the cover courtyard makes this Rajbari special outstanding structure in Serampore, and its scale and proportion gives them monumental experience to the user. Later, when the Serampore was seized to the British as extension of its colonial city in 1845, the later addition of porch and the Ionic colonnade verandas In the front facade, change is symmetric face. In Danish time, it was more symmetric, but later with the influence of British style, it has been changed a lot. This replacement was done mostly in the British time. Similarly, the architectural evolution was vividly seen in the river bank as well, as in 1803, a contemporary traveler described the building as follows. They were in themselves picturesque, being white with extensive porticos to the south and the window close to Venetian blinds painted green. In spite of the evidence decline of the window, the view towards the river was maintained for a long period of time. It was reported as the view of Serampore from river is extensively attractive. So the whole river bank was showing the character of the European style, but the practices of religious activities was still going with the florist trading opportunity. Moreover, if you see the development of the Serampore, this organization of town remained largely intact until the railway connection from Kolkata to Howrah was constructed in 1854, bringing new opportunity to Serampore. Subsequently, commercial activities developed in the railway area, resulting in a marked shift of orientation of activities away from the river towards the new railway station. Moreover, the platform is also turned more into European bungalows, losing the courtyard form. It is very interesting to find different representative layer today together in the urban fabric, but the drastic and unthoughtful contemporary changes are threatening the existing of their traditional spatial sense and threatening the historic sense of being. Being aware of this fact, conservation movement have already been started in Serampore to preserve its historicity and its cultural continuity for making it part of day-to-day life. Some initiative for heritage conservation started in the West Bengal by West Bengal Town and Country Act in 1979. Kolkata Metropolitan Development Authority is an active and direct agency participating in the work of the Commission in Serampore. Similarly, since 2009 to 2020, National Museum of Denmark is also working in Serampore through a research project called Serampore Initiative to preserve the heritage of Serampore as it contested for transnational community of Indian and Danish as a shared history and heritage. I got chance to involve in this initiative and got introduced to Serampore through SEPT University. In 2016 to 2018, I was involved in various documentation projects in Serampore. Similarly, Serampore Heritage Restoration Initiative is one of the local initiatives established in 2013 for starting dialogue and elicit the local for the heritage conservation in Serampore. In this process, they have listed 4 structures in heritage list as Grade 2 in 2009, namely St. Okla Church, which is at the center of the settlement. It has been renovated and has also got the Asian Pacific Award. This is Danish Government House. It has been turned into a ceramic museum now. This is the main entry gate to the Danish Government House, which has been renovated. And this is Danish and Trevon, which has been listed in 2013 only in the heritage list. And this all listed building has been revived and with the combined effort of Indian and Danish government. Among all listed shared heritage has been revived, but the Goswami Rajbari is still waiting for its revival. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shrishtina, for your presentation. We will now have a discussion on the two settlements and also on the Danish influence of Danish culture on India in general. But before that, I would like to ask the other participants if anybody has any particular question. Otherwise, we'll just enter into a general discussion. So is there any question for either Akshaya or Shrishtina? If anybody has any question, please, you can go ahead. You can raise your hand maybe, and we can just start. Professor Joshi, do you have something? Yes, okay.
Yeah, I have a question from Shristina. First of all, congratulations. That was really lovely, both of you, Akshaya and Shristina. So happy to see this. When I was looking at the Rajbari, Goswami Rajbari as such, I was reminded of one of the palaces that we had documented through my students. Of course, all my work is through my students in Punjab. There are many like that. And I think the other Rajbaris are also sort of in West Bengal. I'm not very sure. But I think they have two components. One is meant for the European visitors, where these people would entertain the European visitors one way or the other. And the other part is for the family itself, which is more traditional. And interestingly, because this was one palace that we had documented in the small town near Chandigarh, yeah, Kapur, what is it? Anyway, so we found some very interesting circulation systems. How you could have two separate entries and the two kind of the two categories of users need not mix, but could mix when wanted, and how the kitchen was connected to the both and so on. So did you do something like that for the Rajbari also, or no, it's pending?
Yeah, so
Obviously, the Danish are not interested in the Rajbari. They are only funding whatever pertains to their culture.
Yeah, as you have correctly mentioned about the Rajbari culture, like Goswami Rajbari was my thesis project. I documented whole building during my thesis. So
Yes.
I have not put the slide with the circulation and the use of the building in the presentation. But as you mentioned rightly, there was like different circulation for the visitor. Even for the woman, there are like separate ways. For the servant, there is different ways to go in and to serve the whole the owner of the Rajbari. So at that time, it was like almost 120 people living in that palace,
Yes.
including all the servants. And the frontage part was mostly used for the business purpose, and as you mentioned, to entertain the Danish people. And at that portion, mostly the women and the other like servant were not allowed without permission in that area.
It's very interesting, actually, all these elements. So, Kanya, this is for you and, of course, everyone else.
Yes.
In our NSC, there's so many common elements like the porch,
Right.
So when the vehicles came in, then the porch became a huge status symbol. Maybe they were added later, like you say, like this huge hall with the double height kind of thing and the kind of ornamentation. I don't know if it is possible, but it may be worthwhile to collect documentation of such palaces or Rajbaris or whatever from all over India, and all of them would have more or less the same kind of, what should I say, the same kind of approach to design, even if the details may differ from place to place, depending on the climate and depending on whoever. Like the one palace I'm talking about belonged to a Muslim family, so that was a different kind of culture. But this coming together of different cultures, how much they mingled and how much, how much they stayed apart, that it can become something really very interesting, I think.
Yes, actually in West Bengal, we do have this tradition of Rajbaris. In fact, the place where I stay, the northern part of Calcutta, it has a famous Rajbari called the Shobha Bajar Rajbari, which is actually the place where Lord Clive was actually invited, because they had trade Navakrishna Dev, who was the person who established the family. He actually traded with Clive, and he actually invited Clive, and it is said that that is the first time when the Durga Puja actually started. Okay, so this Shobha, and that is why, in fact, I am a bit allergic to Rajbaris personally. So whenever anybody asks me that, where are you, or you live in, whenever they come to know you live in northern part of Calcutta, so are you related to Shobha Bajar Rajbari? So I have to, vehemently say that no, please, because we are a completely professional family. But there is this idea that the northern part of, the old, which we call the old town, or the native parts of, large cities, they usually, have these kind of zamindar or landed families, and or Rajba, which are called Rajbaris. In fact, I was just going to ask Shristina, since she has worked on the Goswami Rajbari, that as far as I know, that this house was built by Raghuram, somebody called Raghuram
Rajbari.
Goswami, yes,
Goswami,
yes, and they were actually traders, but they were not really even zamindars in that sense of the term.
At that time,
Yeah. Like, for example, Shobha Bajar Rajbari, they were actually zamindars, land, and they received titles from the British and all that. But as far as I know, that this family was a trading family. But of course, they made a lot of wealth out of their trading activities, and then they built this palatial structure. But this idea, that whenever you become rich, you have to call yourself Raja, or some kind of you have to have this royal kind of thing. And for the people, the local community, they also look upon them, because they are such a lavish structure and things like that. So for the local people, they refer to them as Rajas or things like that. But actually the Goswamis were not in that sense landed family, or in that sense aristocrats. They were actually traders, if I'm not mistaken. So I just wanted to ask you that. But anyway, apart from that, Professor Joshi, do you have anything else? Otherwise, I will.
No, nothing
special. You have anything to ask Akshaya?
This is a subject which really fascinates me.
Akshaya, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, so anybody else who's listening? Anybody else? If you have any particular question, otherwise we'll move on to the general discussion. Anybody has any particular question to ask, either Akshaya or Shristina?
I have a question to Akshaya. Both of you presented very interesting perspectives on the Danish influence in the shared built heritage between India and Danish. But you mentioned in your presentation that they didn't really explore on really extravagant buildings and dwellings and residential typologies. Is it because of the British
There's a lot of
takeover
noise.
that they didn't?
There's a lot of noise. Maybe the rest of us could please switch off our mic. A lot of ambient noise. I don't know why. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it because of the change in rule from the Danish settlements to the British, or was it just that they didn't really want to explore or venture into that typology, the public typology?
I think it's, it's not really because of the British taking over, because the Danes came here as early as 1620s. So they had almost like 200 years. 1845 is when they sold it to the British. But there has been this constant fight during amongst the European countries themselves to colonize India during that time, during those 200 years. And it was also majorly influenced because of because of how well their trade was, performing. They were not really successful. In fact, in India, that's also a reason why we have only Serampore and Tranquebar as the only colonies in India, because they did try to go to the Andaman, Nicobar Islands, but they failed due to the malaria and several outbreaks and stuff. So they did not succeed well in terms of that. So it's also probably because of that they did not have enough money to employ an architect to create any extravagant structures or something. So I think it's because of that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what I wanted to ask Akshaya was that if we now just get into our actual discussion, that we are trying to look at both the settlements and through a comparative lens. If we look at it both of them through a comparative lens, then one thing that immediately strikes me after both of your presentations is that unlike in Serampore, where the initiatives are being taken to sort of make the place more contemporary, and for instance the Danish Tavern, from my own experience, I know it's quite popular with heritage enthusiasts in Calcutta, and I've heard many people who have, in fact, I myself am planning a trip there to see the place after the renovation work has happened. But nothing of that sort has, at least I don't know, nothing of that sort seems to have happened in Tranquebar. Is there a reason why did, for example, the National Museum of Denmark, which took up the initiative in Serampore, why after that project are they planning to take up Tranquebar as well?
I don't think so. In fact, when I was working on my thesis, I had also attended the Serampore Winter School that was conducted by the National Museum of Denmark, part of documenting Serampore. At that time, I had several conversations with Dr. Fleming from National Museum of Denmark, and they didn't really show much interest in, I don't know why. Also, I don't remember the conversations right now, but there was initiative taken by Intact post tsunami. Post tsunami is when a lot of people came to know about the character of the place. And post that, people did, I think there was not much of a response in terms of that, which is also a reason why the local Intact chapter was also, the office was closed. And they did, a group of Danes have formed this association called the Danish Tranquebar Association, who were in fact, trying to restore buildings there. Yeah, I think even Adirai and I got the opportunity to interact with them and try and document and help them out, in proposing conservation strategies and stuff. So at that point, I have to say that we had, they are a group of volunteers. They don't really understand what conservation is, even though they have a historian in their trust. So Adirai and I had this opportunity to they have renovated. I think reconstruction would be an apt term for it, because they did not use the traditional conservation practices to restore a building. They, whichever part was dilapidated, they just, demolished it little more and built it with concrete and cement. So Adirai and I had took the effort to go and document, take material samples and get it tested here locally at a lab and stuff. And when we actually proposed that the conservation strategy, they were not willing to use lime.
Okay.
So the local body, I think the local community there is very strong. Like I mentioned, the whole study of the town reflects how the local community and local the politics inside is they're very strong. So the one of the mediators, I think he sort of explained to them that he wanted to benefit from the project, and he definitely did not have the skills to craftsmanship available to use lime.
Right.
So I think a lot of politics that's been happening, which is also a reason why National Museum of Denmark doesn't want to get in. I don't know. This is my personal experience, but
Okay.
I cannot speak for them.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Okay. So, because this would maybe it would sort of also make the place more attractive to tourists and other people also who may be interested. Like I
In
said,
fact, they do. They have a couple of old buildings that have been, adaptive reuse into a resort, bungalow by the beach.
right.
So people go there for a weekend, and it's just about that. It's a very calm, serene place. In fact, the name of the town itself is called Tarangampagi, which means singing waves.
Right, right.
So you can actually feel that when you walk around the town, it's very, it's not crowded, it's very calm. You can listen to the waves, you can see the fort, you can see the buildings, and you can even listen to the prayers of, all three religious structures, prayers, and it's all very calm and peaceful. So a lot can be done here.
So maybe if the local community was taken into confidence, like you are saying that the local politics, so maybe the local people feel that they will not get enough importance, or they will not be involved enough if somebody from outside comes or something like that. I don't know, but I'm just saying. So maybe if there could be, a mechanism through which they could be taken into confidence that this, if we, renovate, or if we make it more contemporary, then that will be of benefit to everyone, including the local community. Then
Definitely.
maybe something can come out of that.
Yes.
Maybe. So,
Also, another thing is most of the neoclassical buildings
right.
are belongs to the church.
Oh, okay. I
Most
see.
of them.
Okay, okay. So then the
Others
church,
are abandoned and dilapidated. So
I see. So then they also have to be sort of
yes.
willing to
So yeah,
let
the
go of their
religion.
let
Yeah.
go of their
Correct.
authority or whatever. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the other question that I was thinking about when both of you presented was, both of you tried to show. See, I don't know anything about architecture. I'm a historian, but both of you were showing how architectural elements of both the Indian as well as the Danish culture influenced each other as far as the buildings were concerned. So even when, for instance, Akshay, you were showing the interiors of the Tamil Hindu house or the Tamil Muslim house, you did mention the cornices and things like that, which may have had colonial motifs. And but at the same time, they were also retaining their uniqueness, their local identity.
Local character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, character. And when you were showing the colonial buildings, for instance, the governor's house or things like that, you were showing that how they are using local elements in that architecture, isn't it? So if I've rightly understood you. So apart from this is of course the because you are of course a specialist in interiors. So your presentation obviously emphasized on that. But I would just like to otherwise ask you also that overall, do you think the Danes, when you were talking about the social impact, the cultural impact, the other kind of things, when you guys going there for a visit?
We can't hear you. I think we lost.
No, it's not on mute. It's can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think your volume suddenly dipped.
Volume. Acha, acha.
Yeah.
Is it okay now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ma'am, if you could just come closer and
Come
speak.
closer. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if as a visitor, suppose I visit Tranquebar today, and I want to understand that what the Danes have left behind, apart from
The
the
Danes, sorry,
what the
the Danes
Danes have left behind.
left behind. Okay.
Yeah. If how do I identify the Danish elements, or can they be identified? Because because after all the settlement also has British influence, as you have mentioned. It's a confluence of three sort of cultures: the British, the Danish, as well as the Indian. If as a lay person, can I identify the particularly Danish elements, or do you think that it's too hybrid to be sort of identified in that
Yes,
sense?
it is too hybrid because that's also, I think the study itself is about how syncretic it is. It's not eclectic and standing out separately. It's not juxtaposed per
Yeah,
se. It is
yeah.
very syncretic, and that's why it's very invisible. You have to like really see. Of course, it is
Hmm.
very prominent in terms of the King Street is completely very colonial. The buildings, the photo that
Right,
I showed,
right.
all the buildings have those masonry colonnaded verandas in front. But whereas
Right.
and it's all two-story. But the
Mm-hmm.
Tamil houses, the Queen Street have all the Tamil houses.
Okay.
So these are the two major arterial routes.
Hmm.
And the King Street has the entry to the town. The entry archway is very similar to what it is in Serampore.
Okay. Right.
So you enter through the King Street. So when you enter the town itself, it is very obvious that this is a colonial place.
Right.
And
Okay.
you enter, and the
Hmm.
governor's building is right at the juncture of Queen Street and the King Street. You
Mm-hmm.
take a left, you see only Tamil buildings, or
Yes.
with traditional Tamil modest homes.
Right.
So you stand right in the junction of King Street and Queen Street, the crossroad, and you
Hmm.
can see the character of the town. You can see the sea, you can see the fort on the right. Left is the governor's building, and here you see all the Tamil houses. Just that one point, you can have the whole feel of the town.
Right.
You cannot really, that's why I had always been mentioning European influence than Danish influence.
Mm.
Even though we know the Danes were there for the major period of time,
Mm-hmm.
so we can assume that it was all brought by the Danes for
Right.
sure.
Right.
So that is my
Right.
perspective.
Right.
How you can.
So till 1875 or till the 19th century, the Danes were there.
1845.
1845. Okay.
Yeah.
So when they sold the thing to the British, after
Yes.
that they completely left the place. So there was
Yes.
nobody,
Nobody. Nobody.
nobody. Okay. Okay. So then it became a completely British settlement.
Yes.
And the same thing happened in the case of Serampore also, Shrishtina?
Yeah,
Like,
so
yeah.
in 1845,
No,
can
you
you
said
mute?
75.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm if I'm mistaken or
yeah,
not.
can you guys mute? I get lots of
Yeah. I'll.
yeah. So like while talking with Simone, the historian of Denmark, he was mentioning that in 1845 British also attacked the Copenhagen. So they were forced to leave Tranquebar and Serampore and go back to Denmark and save their own capital. So, like in Tranquebar and Serampore, in the same year, 1845, they have to leave. And they left everything here and went back. And one, like he also mentioned that Tranquebar was, they already know where is Tranquebar, and Tranquebar was a Danish colony. But they were searching for Frederick Nagar because Frederick Nagar is not very common in India. If you ask anyone where is Frederick Nagar, nobody knows where it is. But if you ask Serampore, you will know where the Serampore lies because it's very common to the Indians. So they were searching for this Frederick Nagar for a long time when they were working in Tranquebar, and I think very late they found Serampore is the Frederick Nagar, and they were very happy to find that place. And because it was abandoned, all the British houses were like, if you go to Serampore now also, you can find many abandoned building. It's like even the Rajbari, the last end of the palace has been taken over by the vegetation, and vegetation grow in this Bengal region is like it grows very fast. So many buildings has been taken over by the vegetation. So yeah, I think that's the reason they have to leave everything in India and go back to their country and save their country.
Right. And also because maybe they did not have any political ambition as such, unlike the British, who obviously wanted to sort of build an empire here.
Yeah, so you can
yeah.
also see that from the architecture intervention they have done. All the buildings are very subtle, not so huge. Even the palaces of the Indians were bigger than the Danish governor house or whatever they have built. If you see, even the colleges or the churches are much bigger than the house of the governor. So they were here mostly for the business purpose. And as you have mentioned that Goswami were only the traders, they made more fortune than the Danish. If you see, even there was written that when Britisher want to seize the Danish, Goswami even offered to buy the whole land of Danish. So they were that much rich with the trade with the Danish.
Right. So Athirai has made a comment, yes, that Tranquebar is a fortified town, whereas Serampore is not, which is correct. So Athirai, would you like to join the discussion? Do you have anything specific to say around?
In Tranquebar, post-tsunami, there are a lot of fund was given to the local government and local authorities. There are so many rapid construction were happening. There are a lot of insensitive conservation proposals, and even though Intac has restored a few buildings, now they are not in use. They are in the same stage how it was found in post-tsunami stage. Like there is no use. They put into adaptive reuse, but that is not sensitive to the local community. The local community is majorly the fishing community. So there is no inclusiveness in terms of identifying the stakeholders. That's what I would say, because I mean, I remember a lot of people who were involved. There's private funding even to build houses for them, but nothing had any vernacular touch. Nothing had any climate responsive architectural solutions post tsunami. It was a very rapid construction. There was a fund, and they have built like colony type houses everywhere. So that's what happened.
But I just want to ask both Athirai and Akshaya, since both of you have worked there in Tranquebar, that just now you said that inclusion of the fishing community. So how do you propose they should be included? I mean, they are after all people who are fishing. So what would they what would they gain? Suppose there would be some kind of transformation or some kind of renovation or readaptation of the buildings there. Suppose, how do you think the fishing community could be involved?
Maybe I can. I mean, I can think about one thing: the food. The local food. Whenever we visit there, we almost visited like 1 year, more than 1 year. We are suffered to get food in Tranquebar. Because they had only this bungalow on the beach, which is very costly. We can't even enter inside. Even during the COVID time, it was very difficult for me to access any of the places over there. So the local communities, they can actually make food, that can be sold. There are so many other things. So, and also the craft. Using the shells, they could make a lot of other crafts, but that is not encouraged that's not sold also as a main, it is not, it didn't get the limelight. So these two
I think
aspects could have been.
in fact, in the Queen's Library, they do have like a museum where they display all the fishermen communities, the equipments that they use, the boat, and they do sell a couple of artifacts made out of the shells, but I don't think it sells well. So maybe like a training program, I think, which is what Intact also tried to do post tsunami. We don't know why it didn't receive well.
No, so if we now sort of try to get the entire picture, the Danes, as we know, is just one of the different European groups who came to India, the Portuguese, French, British being the other. So how do you think, this is for both Shrishtina and Akshaya, that how do you think that the Danes were unique in what sense?
Sorry, Danes were?
How do you think the Danes were unique? In what sense can we say that they were unique or different from, say, the Portuguese, the French, or the British, and their impact on India? If I was to ask you that, what would be according to you the most unique elements of the Danish culture or in India? Because we are, after all, studying Danish culture in the Indian context, right? So, what to you would be the unique or different thing about the Danes that the other groups did not have?
I think when it comes to Tranquebar, um, the influence of the Danes is unique because it is syncretic. They try to respect the local community, and they did not disturb anything, and they try to develop by introducing schools, printing press, religion, and all of that. So uh, and also bringing craftsmen and trying to give employment to the local community and all of that. So, which is also a reason
Can I
why
for a minute?
Right. I will just mention about the Serampore. Akshara, can you mute it? So, as Akshara has mentioned, Danish were more humble to the local community. It can be like if you see like what I have studied about India and how British are always want to dominate the local people in terms of they don't want them to be educated, or they don't want them to get access to the facility. They just want to dominate and get benefit out of it. But in case of Danish, it has not been seen in that way, because as I have mentioned, many local families also made fortune when Danish were doing trade. That is also one prominent example. And also in Serampore, I think Oscar also mentioned that in Tranquebar they made a printing press or something like that. In Serampore also they started in West Bengal. It was one of the first printing press established in Serampore, and there is Serampore College in Serampore, which was established by the William Carey, who is Britisher. Danish allowed Britisher to open college in their land when Britisher were not allowing to open education to the local at that time. So it shows that how humble they were to the local people and respecting the local culture, and also they were demonstrating their humble culture, I guess, in that way.
Yeah, as far as I know, William Carey, Joshua Marshman, they were all Danish Christian missionaries who actually came to India, and they established the first press in Serampore. Yes, you are correct. Okay, so Professor Joshi has written in the chat box, so maybe Akshara and Athirai should go. Can Athirai or Akshaya say a bit more about the kind of stake the local fishermen community have in conserving and promoting? So it's an extension of my question, which I had asked earlier to Akshaya. And also then ma'am has also said something more.
So the communities did exist at the same time, but like Adria mentioned, this was a fortified town. So during the Danes period, the fishermen lived outside the fortified walls of the place. So I don't think they really had any stake at that time. But right now, probably they hold a much more stronger hold here. That is my perspective. Adira, do you have?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, so there are other stakeholders in the sense there's a Goldsmith Street and there's agriculture and there are other kind of professions also had happened at the same time. The Danish fort was built later only, not in the initial times, but then it was not included within the Tranquebar town of that time.
I think, and Professor Joshi has also asked whether there are other stakeholders apart from the fishing community. Who are the other stakeholders?
I think it's mostly when it comes to the colonial part, it is the Christian community. To have trade relations with some local communities. What were they trading in? Okay, so like I mentioned, the Muslim traders who are there and who are there for about 200, 300 years before, I think they arrived in 1350s. So they were there close to 300 years before the Danes arrived. So when the Muslim traders helped them during the trade, which is also a reason why the Muslim houses are comparatively larger and spacious, and even the some of the buildings in the King Street are owned by Muslims. And the goldsmith community is also within the town wall. And like Adira is mentioning, they were inherently here. They also brought blacksmiths from nearby villages to, build houses and make wrought iron hinges, and they exported that as well. They were trading. They were trading cotton, spices, denim, furniture. So they brought in craftsmen, whoever were not natively present here. They brought them from neighboring villages. They did not bring any architect or a craftsman from Europe to train them. So they brought them from nearby villages to work here, work here and then export. So some effort has been made to involve the Muslim traders and etc. in conservation effort. So the thing is, right now in the Goldsmith Street, only one family practices the craft. All the other people have moved to the cities or things. So right now inside at Tranquebar, there's only one family of goldsmiths. So I don't know how well we can involve the goldsmith community because there is no community right now. Adira, do you have anything to add on?
Right now, I think there should be understanding. There is no part of the fort wall is not there. And the fisherman community is part of Tranquebar only. And there are a lot of extensions and urban extensions also. Like there are apartments and they are building multi-story buildings and all this. And that is connected now well with Karaikal town and Porayar town and other part of the town. So I think it involves much more larger stakeholders now. Yeah, so I think it extends now. It's not just limited to Tranquebar alone, because a lot of people come from outside and they do commercial activities in Tranquebar, because there are a lot of tourists comes to Tranquebar and they leave the town after 4:30 or 5 o'clock. So you find the town abandoned and unsafe for children and women to even to stay over there. It's just the locals of few families who resides in Tranquebar.
Right. With that, I think we should come to the end of our program today. Unless there are any further points to discuss.
I think Rajiv Soni sir wants to say
Okay, sir, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Rajiv Soni. I'm sorry I tuned in very late because I just kind of had another schedule. I just want to keep everyone informed that I've just done a book it's called Serampore. It was a book commissioned by the Royal Danish Commission, the embassy in Delhi. And I would suggest if it's on Amazon, I'm not telling the book, but there are certain points, like somebody mentioned that Carey and Marshman were Danish missionaries. They were not. They were from the English Baptist, and they only came in 1818, much later.
Okay.
So, these kind of things we need to know. I'm just saying that. And the other, but in case ICOMOS needs a copy of my book or something, I'll be glad to send it. If you can send me the address, or I can give it to ICOMOS in Calcutta also.
Oh, that would be lovely. Yes.
Okay.
That would be lovely. Okay. Thank you for your
Thank you
input.
so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
you so much. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. So any other inputs? Otherwise, I think we should formally, bring the program to an end, because our time is also up. So before we formally end today's program, I would just like to, finally thank a few people without whose support we couldn't have had this program today. So first of all, I would like to warmly thank the two speakers of today's evening, Akshaya and Shristina, for giving us so much time and also agreeing to, participate in this program. Next, of course, I would like to thank ICOMOS for helping with all the logistical support, the EXCOM for passing the proposal, and also providing the Zoom coordinates and all other technical support they have provided. Simran Deshpande, who was the research intern who helped me out with logistics. Athirai Selva Pandya, who is our co-coordinator, NSC SBH co-coordinator. In fact, this event was actually her brain, her brain work, or she's the one who sort of thought about it and suggested it. And then I'm very happy that she was able to participate today, because she's now participating in a workshop. So thank you, Athirai, and also for the other logistical support for the poster, everything else that you did. Roshni Mulidhara, who very kindly sort of stepped in today to help me with to operate the Zoom coordinates, because Athirai won't be able to help me today. So I'm very happy and thankful to Roshni that she agreed to help me out. And to all the participants who, even though they were much fewer in number than how many registered, but still those who sort of found time and actually participated, or maybe they will see the recording. The recording will be uploaded on YouTube and also on the ICOMOS page. So I'm sure that will receive much more views. So thank you to all of you for today's program. And we sort of end the program formally. Thank you and good night to all of you.